Lights, camera, biceps, ditch. Let's watch this movie and flex our shit. Movie buff, flexing real hard, watching badass stuff. Movie buff. We don't watch no movies that suck big nuts. Movie buff. Damn, I just ripped my shirt cause I flex too much. Movie buff. Open up the backpack full of snacks, let's relax. Pop the movie and then pass the peanut butter cups.
What's up, guys? Adam here with Movie Buffs, and in this episode we are going to be discussing the 1999 sci-fi classic badass kung fu movie, The Matrix. Or is it still badass? Is it still as good as I remember when I first watched it? And I've seen it more than once between the first time I've watched it and now, but let's go over it. Let's dive into the details. Let's find out if this movie is still badass. Now, before we start, let me go ahead and have Agent Smith give you a quick synopsis on the movie. I'm sure he's going to be happy we're talking about this movie, that's for sure.
The Matrix is a groundbreaking sci-fi action film written and directed by the Wachowskis. Produced on a $63 million budget by Warner Brothers and Joel Silver, it was released on March 31st, 1999, and became a massive hit, grossing over $473 million worldwide. It stars Keanu Reeves as Neo, a computer hacker, Laurence Fishburne as the wise Morpheus, Carrie-Anne Moss as the fierce Trinity, Hugo Weaving as the menacing Agent Smith, and Joe Pantoliano as Cypher. In a dystopian future, machines have enslaved humanity inside a simulated reality called the Matrix. When Neo is pulled into the real world by Morpheus and his crew, he discovers his destiny as the One, a prophesied savior with the power to bend the rules of the simulation. Together, they battle ruthless AI agents in jaw-dropping slow-motion gunfights and martial arts spectacles while fighting to free humanity from digital bondage. Packed with revolutionary bullet time effects, mind-bending philosophy, and iconic action, it redefined the genre.
I want to talk about the first time I actually watched this movie. I was in middle school, I believe, and at that time, I used to create my own VHS collection of movies, my own library. What I would do is I would go to the store and I would buy me a blank VHS tape, and I would get the TV Guide on Sunday. I'd get the newspaper, the Sunday newspaper, because there was a weekly TV Guide in the back, and I would go through the entire TV Guide on the channels that I had, and I would circle movies that I wanted to record to add to my library. And the first time I saw The Matrix was not in theaters. For whatever reason, I didn't catch it in theaters. I caught it whenever it made its debut on TV. It was airing on a random cable network. I forget which one. So I made sure that I was going to be able to record it because I wanted to watch it. And sure enough, yeah, I managed to record the movie and I watched it for the very first time on cable TV. Now, of course, cable TV is going to edit out some things, but for the most part, this movie isn't filled with too many things that were going to get spliced out of it. I do remember the first time watching it, I thought it was pretty freaking awesome. I thought the fighting was great. I thought the action was super unique. It definitely changed the game when it came to sci-fi movies and when it came to special effects. It raised the bar for sure. And overall, I still feel that way, but I think the only thing that has soured a little bit in my eyes is the quality of the martial arts. There are moments in the movie that the martial arts is pretty damn good, and there are a lot of moments where you can tell that the people throwing kicks and punches are not martial artists. They're not trained in throwing kicks and punches. I don't care how much practice they may have undergone in order to prepare for this movie, you can tell when somebody knows how to kick and you can tell when somebody doesn't know how to kick. Let me get Gus in on this. Gus, have you seen The Matrix? And is there anything that you look back at now with The Matrix that you don't really like anymore, or you find a little crappier nowadays, but it was something that you thought was awesome back when the movie first came out?
All right, gangster, let's get this Matrix podcast rolling properly. Yes, I've seen The Matrix multiple times. First time when I was a kid back in '99, and I've rewatched it plenty since. It's one of those movies that burned itself into my brain. Now, real talk on your second question. Back in 1999, there were a few things I absolutely loved that don't hit quite the same in 2026. The biggest one for me is the everything is so profound and philosophical vibe. When I was younger, the red pill, blue pill stuff, the there is no spoon, the whole what is real monologue, it felt insanely deep. Now, it comes off a little try-hard and pretentious. Like the movie is constantly winking at you going, whoa, dude, reality is an illusion. It was mind-blowing at the time, but in 2026, it feels like Philosophy 101 mixed with edgy teen energy. Another thing, the fashion. Those long black leather trench coats, tiny sunglasses, and vinyl everything looked unbelievably cool in '99. Now it looks like peak Hot Topic cosplay. Every time Morpheus shows up in that coat, I can't unsee how dated it feels. The bullet time effect was revolutionary when it dropped. I remember losing my mind in the theater. In 2026, it's still impressive technically, but it's been copied so many damn times that it doesn't have the same holy shit factor anymore. Every action movie and video game stolen. The one thing that actually aged worse for me is how much the movie lectures you. The expository dialogue in the second half, especially Morpheus explaining the whole history of the Matrix, feels clunky now. They stopped the movie dead to give you a PowerPoint presentation on the law. But here's the flip side. A lot of it still slaps hard. The action, especially the lobby scene and the opening Trinity sequence. The practical effects mixed with early CGI. Agent Smith and that raw, what if everything is fake, paranoia still works great. So yeah, the philosophical posturing and the Y2K fashion haven't aged perfectly, but the core movie is still a stone-cold classic.
So the movie starts off with Trinity and Cypher talking about the fact that they've been watching somebody. Somebody that Morpheus, another character we haven't seen before yet, believes to be the one. So obviously he sounds pretty important to them. During this phone call, they get the sense that they're being monitored. Somebody's maybe listening in on their phone call. And they're right. Because Trinity, while she's up in some random ass room, I don't know why she's in that random ass room to begin with, but a whole bunch of cops and these 3 agents show up. Now they try to take her out, but she doesn't let that shit happen. She whoops all their goddamn asses. She does some crazy ass I'm a fly in the air crane kick bullshit right into their chest, pushing them across the throwing them across the fucking room. She runs on the wall like fucking Spider-Man, which yeah, it's impressive that she can run on the wall, but the dude's fucking firing at her and he can't keep up with her. She's not moving that fucking fast, and yet he can't keep up with her. Just because she's running on the wall doesn't mean she was running at super speed. So I think that was a little ridiculous. They needed to make her, for me, I think they should have made her a little faster for something like that to be believable, that they can't keep up with her to shoot her. But she does whoop everybody's ass. Now, for the most part, this scene is still pretty good. It gives you an introduction right off the bat that there's going to be martial arts fighting throughout this movie. And there's going to be reality bending physics throughout this movie. They're going to be doing some superhero shit. The agents are chasing her. She's running on rooftops. She jumps fucking like 40 or 50 feet from rooftop to rooftop. The agent follows her. Obviously, none of the police officers can do it because they're just regular ass people. But there's something special about Trinity and her people. And there's obviously something very special about these fucking agents who are coming after her. It's a badass opening scene. It sets the tone immediately. I will say, though, overall, Trinity, I think, is the weakest link in the movie when it comes to fight scenes. You only really get real fight scenes with Trinity, Morpheus, Neo, and Agent Smith. Agent Smith and Morpheus are okay. Like, they're a little bit sloppy in their technique. They definitely look like they don't do martial arts. Trinity, I think, looks the worst, and Keanu looks the best. But you can tell that they've, maybe practiced some kicks here and there, but that they're not actually real martial artists. They don't have actual strong technique. And that fact becomes even more apparent in the second movie whenever you have that Asian dude who protects the Oracle, whenever you see him fight, because when he moves, you can tell, oh shit, this dude actually does train martial arts, and he kind of just makes everybody else look bad. But we'll get to part 2 another day. But Gus, what do you think? So, out of all the characters in this movie who have fight scenes, who do you think is the weakest link?
Good call, gangsta. I mostly agree. Trinity's fights in the opening do feel like the weakest. She's graceful and stylish, but she doesn't sell the raw power or martial arts skill the way the others do. Her moves look more like dancing than actual fighting. Morpheus is solid when he's on, but Keanu's Neo actually looks the strongest overall, especially once he downloads the skills. He's got that perfect mix of speed, weight, and I'm done playing energy. The opening Trinity chase is cool because of the tension and bullet time, but her hand-to-hand stuff never quite convinces me she could take down trained agents.
So now we meet Neo. He's an obvious hacker of some sort, a loner, it seems. He gets contacted by Trinity, who lures him to a club. And it's there we get the question. She whispers it into his ear. What is the Matrix? I remember that being a tagline or question that was thrown out there to hype this movie. It had people wanting to watch the movie just so they could find out the answer to the question. Some people even found it hard to understand at first, but that's just because some people are dumb bastards. Some of the fate stuff and multiple lifetimes we learn about later in the sequels definitely get convoluted, but understanding what the Matrix was, overall that was pretty easy. What happens next is what I think is kind of bullshit. Agents are coming to Neo's work. They're basically hunting him down, and Morpheus calls Neo on a phone to warn him, and he gives him instructions on how to evade the agents. So he basically plays a game of Pac-Man, making his way through the maze of cubicles trying to avoid the agents, and he makes it to an office with a window. Now fucking Morpheus tells him to go out one of the windows, walk along the edge, and take the scaffolding to the roof. Then he hangs up on him as if he doesn't care whether Neo chooses to listen or not, which we all know is bullshit because they very much care about what happens to Neo. The ledge itself that he is going to walk on is maybe a foot wide. And in between him and the scaffolding, there's a freaking, what looks like maybe like a large metal gutter chute that runs perpendicular, running straight down from the top of the building all the way down to the bottom, it seems. And it intersects with that ledge. And that gutter sticks out a few inches past the ledge. So in order to make it, he'd have to maneuver himself around this big metal gutter that'll push him further off the ledge. And he is multiple stories up in the air. So if he fucks up, if he slips, if anything goes wrong, he's dead. You would think that in that specific moment, that Morpheus's help would have gone a long way. That right there was the hardest fucking part of the journey. and Morpheus hangs up on him right before it, when Neo could have definitely used his help. I mean, he knows everything else. He's telling Neo everything that's going on around him. You'd think he'd be able to tell Neo what he has to do to get around that shit, but no. So Neo, he gives up. He doesn't think he can do it. And you know what? He's probably right. I don't even know if I'd be able to do it. I'd probably give up as well. Watch that shit again. It was ridiculous. So now he ends up getting taken in by the agents. Gus, if you were in charge of talking Neo out of that building, what would have been your master plan? And would it have worked better than Morpheus's plan?
That whole office escape sequence is pretty ridiculous when you think about it. Morpheus' plan was straight trash. He calls Neo at work, tells him the agents are coming, then basically says, climb out the window onto a tiny ledge 20 stories up, shimmy across, and take some sketchy scaffolding to the roof. Neo almost shits himself, freezes up, and Morpheus just hangs up like, good luck, bitch. Terrible leadership. If I was running the extraction, here's my better plan. I'd have a fake delivery guy, or Switch, or a Pac in disguise, show up at the office 10 minutes earlier with a big computer repair box. Neo gets told there's a problem with his cubicle PC and needs to step out for maintenance. While he's walking out normally with the tech, the real distraction happens. Maybe a small fire alarm or fake security issue on another floor to pull attention away. Once outside, they slip into an unmarked van waiting in the loading dock, not the roof. No ledge walking, no death-defying scaffolding bullshit. Simple, clean, low profile. Would it have worked better? Absolutely. Morpheus's plan relied on Neo suddenly becoming brave and athletic with zero training. My version uses normal human behavior and misdirection instead of turning Neo into Spider-Man on day one. Way less chance of him freezing and getting caught. Morpheus was so focused on the chosen one mystique that he forgot basic common sense. Classic cult leader move.
So the agents do let Neo go, but not before they make his mouth disappear and freak him the fuck out and put a little robot bug inside his belly button to track him. Then he gets picked up by Trinity, APOC, and Switch. They pull a gun on him and tell him to take off his shirt or else they're gonna kill him or something. Now when he questions it, Switch does exactly what Morpheus did earlier. She gives him an ultimatum to listen or get the fuck out. And when Neo decides to actually get the fuck out, Trinity has to stop him, talk to him, and basically convince him to stay by talking to him like a person. Switch almost fucked that shit up. She almost kicked him to the curb when they obviously want and need him. If it wasn't for Trinity, he would have bounced. So at what point is somebody going to tell Switch to shut her goddamn mouth because she's jeopardizing the mission? Now they use a sweet little electricity machine to pull the bug out of his belly, then they throw the dead bug into the street. I guess they don't care about littering in the digital world. And when they meet up with Morpheus, this is when we get the famous red pill, blue pill scenario. Now, I would like to think that I would have the courage, the logic, and the balls to take the red pill. I mean, just out of sheer curiosity, you'd want to take the red pill. But if you knew what it meant, if you really knew what it meant, not the vague bullshit mystical talk that Morpheus fed him, but the actual truth, would you still want to take the red pill? I'd like to think I would, but I don't know. I mean, you're going to be giving up a whole world. Granted, it's a fake world, but it's a world nonetheless filled with pizza, burgers, movies, video games, and pretty much every fucking cool thing that you can think of. You're going to be trading all that in to join a band of underground rebels. It's a tough call. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't go the cipher route and get people killed. But you can absolutely understand his point of view. So Gus, don't lie. Would you take the red pill Or would you slap that shit out of his hand and shove the blue pill down your throat as fast as you can?
Real talk, no bullshit. If I actually knew the truth like Morpheus was offering, yeah, I'd still take the red pill. I'm too damn curious. The idea of living in a fake comfortable lie while my real body is floating in goo, being used as a battery, would drive me insane. Even if the real world is a burnout hellscape with squid monsters and terrible food, at least it's real. I'd rather fight and suffer in truth than live happily in slavery. That said, I get why a lot of people would slap the red pill out of Morpheus' hand and go blue. Most humans want comfort over truth. Bills paid, steak that tastes good, no responsibility, that's tempting as hell. Especially if you're already living a decent life. Me personally, I'd take the red pill. Probably regret it the first time I tasted that slop they eat, then spend the rest of my life pissed off and fighting. That's just who I am. But honest answer, I think 80% of people saying red pill right now are full of shit. They'd take the blue in a heartbeat if it was real.
It's definitely a tough call. I mean, think about it. What if you're not coming from the perspective of Neo? Neo, he's a loner. He has nobody. His life is already kind of bleak and empty and meaningless. And if you're living a life like that, of course, the red pill is going to look extremely appealing to you because it's going to offer a door to somewhere that doesn't suck as much as your life does right now, hopefully. But what if you have a good life? You know, what if you have a wife, you got kids, you're married, you've been in love for 20, 30 years or whatever, you know, she's the love of your life, and you know your kids are doing real great and you have badass friends, and it'd be tough to just say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and walk away from all of this because none of it's real. You're not real. I'm going to go join a civilization in some crazy underground facility and I'm going to fight robots. I mean, it's insane when you think about it. And the whole idea of kids does bring up another topic because we're going to find out in a little bit that people are grown. They are grown basically to be batteries for the machine world. There's farms of people. And they're put into the matrix to subdue them so that they're docile and they don't wake up and they don't try to fight being captured. So every person in the matrix is somebody in a pod. But what if two people in the matrix who are real, they're in pods, get into a relationship and decide to have kids? It's not like their pod bodies are going to actually have sex. They're just going to have sex in the matrix and they're just going to have kids in the matrix. Does the matrix create more pod babies based off of what people are doing in the matrix? Or like, how does it work exactly? You know, that's one thing that you don't really get any answers for. And I'm sure if we sat here and we thought of all the different complexities of the matrix, we could find a whole bunch of problems and loopholes with it, and we could pick it apart for days. But there's definitely a lot of questions when it comes to how the fuck does the matrix work when it comes to the little things. So after Neo wakes up after having taken the red pill, sorry. He wakes up in this crazy fucking futuristic, almost alien looking pod. It's run by the machine world. It's where humans are kept in these pods so they can be plugged into the matrix and used to power their world, just like batteries. A machine floats by, it sees that he's awake, it unplugs him, and I guess it determines that he is no longer a good egg, so he flushes him down a toilet. He gets picked up by Morpheus, by a big ass crane game, and now he's on the ship. And it looks like they're doing, you don't quite know how much time they take to repair his body because it's so weak because he's never used it before. So all of his muscles are pretty much non-existent. He's got the he probably has the muscle mass of an 8-year-old girl. So they're doing all kinds of what looks like high-tech acupuncture on him. They want to build him up, at least enough for him to fucking function. And when he finally does wake up, he's got a little bit of hair grown on his head, a little bit of a buzz cut going on. So I'm going to assume that he was probably asleep for maybe anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. But they don't say. Once he's awake, Morpheus sits his ass in a chair and he plugs him into their simulation program, which is similar to the Matrix. And it's there he goes over something that I find kind of interesting is how he looks in the Matrix. Because in the Matrix, he looks like himself, but all the plugs are gone. He has his regular hair back. He looks normal. Morpheus is over there sitting in his fancy ass suit with his sunglasses that don't have any fucking earpieces on the side, so I don't even know how that shit stays on. And he calls what they look like in there, I think it was something along the lines of the mental projection of their digital self. So basically, it's fancy talk for avatars, or a Mii if you had a Nintendo Wii back in the day. It's just your avatar. So what I'm thinking is, I wonder if anybody ever takes liberties with their looks. Because if you can go into a computer program and look like anything, maybe even look like anyone, I'm not really sure, wouldn't you try to change that shit? Think about it. So, you remember the movie Surrogates? It was a Bruce Willis movie. It was an okay sci-fi movie. In that movie, everybody in the world is basically obsessed with just living their life through these android robots. So they basically plug themselves, not quite into a matrix, but they plug themselves into these robots. And these robots, they can see, hear, feel, and all that bullshit. But it allows them to just basically sit at home and relax, and they can go and do all of their daily chores, whether it's going to work, whether it's going on dates, whatever. They can do everything in these robots that are perfect, which would be really nice if, let's say, you're a disabled person, you can't go anywhere, or, you know, maybe you're a really fat person, you can't go anywhere. But people have obviously bastardized that shit because everybody has a surrogate that looks uber beautiful. Most people have a surrogate that looks like themselves, but just nice and young and youthful looking and perfect hair and all that bullshit. Bruce Willis had the same thing going on. Like, in reality, he's old and bald, and his surrogate was young with hair. But then you have some freaks out there. Like, I think they have some big fat dude who, in his surrogate, I think is like a girl, a young girl or something like that. So if you wanted to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or just some big fucking jacked ass dude, you could with your surrogate. I'm going to assume it's the same thing here in the Matrix. If you project yourself as whatever you want to project yourself, I'm going to assume that you'd be able to make yourself look like anything. I mean, they can put on whatever clothes they want. And for some reason, all of them choose to be like, I don't know, gothic emo punks or whatever in this movie. But it does make you ask yourself, if you were inside the Matrix and you can make yourself look like anything that you wanted, would you just stop at having nice hair and clean clothes? I mean, wouldn't you make yourself fucking jacked? If you're fat, wouldn't you make yourself nice and slim and skinny with big ass boobs or some shit like that? I mean, like me, myself, I would get me a fucking mullet just like Van Damme in Hard Target. I'd make my muscles even more huger than they already are, and trust me, they're super goddamn huge. There'd be literally no reason for any of these people in the real world who jack into the Matrix to not be in there and not have like a fucking 12-inch penis. I mean, really, why wouldn't you? And we already find out later on that, you know, little mouse over there is a digital pimp, and he's got some chick with the red dress that he can hook you up and put you into the simulator and have some digital sex with her, which I don't have a problem with that. If you're not going to use virtual reality for sexual gratification at some point in your life, are you even using it right? But if you are also able to make yourself look like anything, why stop at just a slightly cleaner version of yourself? Gus, what would you make yourself look like?
All right, gangster. This is a fun one. If I could design my digital self in the Matrix and look however the hell I wanted, I'd go full ridiculous 80s action hero mixed with pure menace. Picture this. I'm 6 feet 5 inches, jacked like prime Schwarzenegger on steroids, but with a thick, nasty mullet flowing down my back like Van Damme in Hard Target. Leather trench coat? Nah, I'm wearing a sleeveless black denim vest covered in spikes and patches, fingerless gloves, and combat boots that look like they could crush skulls. My arms are covered in old-school tattoos, and I've got a permanent 5 o'clock shadow with a scar running down one cheek just for flavor. I'd keep my face mostly the same, but make my jawline sharper and my eyes colder. Basically, I look like the guy who shows up to the bar and everyone just quietly moves away. No fancy goth shit. Just pure, unhinged, I will fuck you up energy. And yeah, you're right. It makes zero sense that nobody in the crew maxed out their avatars. Morpheus is out here dressing like a vampire poet when he could have been a 7-foot-tall Viking with a war hammer.
So once Neo is all healed up and all that good shit, and Morpheus feels like he's ready to be told, he explains to him why he did what he did, because normally they don't pull people out of the Matrix at an age as late as Neo's. Apparently the mind can't handle it, and I guess sometimes people just die from it. But he did it because he believes that Neo is the one. He's basically Robo-Jesus. They have a theory or a prophecy or whatever that when the Matrix was first created, there was somebody born inside the Matrix, which makes me wonder, when the Matrix was created, think of the Matrix as being an operating system like Windows, let's just say Windows 95, right? All the people inside of it are basically coding and programs. So when the Matrix was created, if there was a coding of the one formed inside of it at its creation, then that you would think that that would mean that Neo was a person inside the Matrix without a body. Because don't you think that when the Matrix is created and bodies are plugged into it, then their coding as their digital self enters the program, it enters the Matrix, it enters the operating system. It's like installing a program on your computer. Unless you actually get the program, the disk, or you download it from wherever, which is in this case people, and you put it on your computer, it's not going to just be there. But Neo apparently is like integrated software. It was already there. So if it didn't come from a body, where the fuck did it come from? And where did Neo's body come from? And how did his programming find its way into that body? I don't know. It's a little bit confusing on that part, but I think we're supposed to just gloss over that shit. But then comes a really fun part. Morpheus takes Neo into training. Well, first Tank does. Tank takes him into training, and he teaches him all kinds of martial arts. He uploads programming to basically just inject martial arts into his brain, and he spends like 10 hours just uploading all of that data into him, and Neo is getting himself some top-tier digital training. During all that training, he's learning like 50 different martial arts, which I don't understand necessarily how that's a good thing, because not all martial arts are created equal. There's a lot of martial arts out there that are fucking hot garbage trash mixed with ass. You don't want to be doing some of these martial arts because you're actually probably going to make yourself a worse fighter if you start learning some of these random ass martial arts. But I'm sure he learns a few good ones. Now, of all the martial arts that he learns, what most prominently comes out on screen is just Kung Fu. From the kicks and the flips and the wire fu and all the fucking fancy little stances. It's mainly Morpheus that has the most cringe-worthy stances whenever they go one-on-one. And it's a big deal the first time Morpheus and Neo are going one-on-one. He wants to see how the training took, and he wants to see what Neo is capable of. I will say the fight scene is pretty badass. There's a couple of lame ass parts where Morpheus is standing with his fingertips pinched together in a crane fucking pose or whatever, looking as gay as possible. But then the fight really fucking, it picks up big time. Morpheus obviously shows that he's way better than Neo, that he's top tier, and fucking Neo is still white belt level. He's still a fucking young grasshopper. But during that scene, he's teaching him how to kind of free his mind so that he can move faster. Because moving faster in the Matrix has nothing to do with how fast you are in real life. It's how fast you can make yourself be in this digital world. And with that, it's going to be, you have to have full control over your mind in order to do it. Because you got to be able to manipulate the laws of the Matrix around you and the rules and the coding. So we get some pretty badass wire fu. And normally you see wire fu in like old school kung fu movies. Now, admittedly, I've never been a fan of wire fu. It is one of my least favorite types of martial arts movies. I don't like that shit. And The Matrix really started to spawn more wire fu in American movies, which I'm not really happy about that shit either. One of the worst examples that I can think of just shitty martial arts wire fu was that movie with Jet Li. What was it? Romeo Must Die? God damn it. I hated the fighting in that movie so much. The movie itself is a piece of shit. It's a garbage movie, throwaway movie. But if you're a Jet Li fan, maybe you might watch it just so you can see some Jet Li moves on screen. And Jet Li is he is a very well-trained martial artist in kung fu and other, Chinese shit. So he knows how to move. He doesn't need that shitty wire fu. At least not in our American films he doesn't. But The Matrix was so popular that it just fucking spawned so much of that wire fu bullshit. And it's one of the worst things to have come from this movie, in my opinion. Although, I will say, in this scene where they're first fighting each other for the first time, it is more subtle, the wire fu. It's not as crazy as you see in a lot of other, like, Chinese wire fu movies. To me, it's better. I think the toned down nature of it was better. I think it should have stayed like that for the entire series of The Matrix, but it doesn't. So Gus, tell me, how do you feel about wire fu being used in American films? Do you like it? Do you think America even does it well? I mean, what are your opinions on that shit?
Huh, all right, gangster. Let's talk about that training scene in Wire Fu. I love the Morpheus versus Neo fight. It looks cool as hell. The slow motion flips, the wall running, the stop trying to hit me and hit me energy. It's one of the most iconic training sequences ever. But here's my real take. Wire Fu is awesome when it's done right, but it got completely abused after The Matrix. Before 1999, it belonged in Hong Kong cinema. Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Yuen Wu-Ping stuff, where it felt fast, creative, and weightless in a fun way. The Matrix brought it to American movies and made it mainstream, which was dope at first. Bullet time plus wire work felt fresh and revolutionary. Now, I'm mixed. When it's used sparingly and with good choreography, like in the Matrix training room, it slaps. But after this movie, every Hollywood action flick started overdoing it. People flying around like they're on trampolines, floating punches, ridiculous flips that break all physics. It started looking fake and cartoonish real quick. I think wire fu works best when it enhances real martial arts skill instead of replacing it. Keanu trained hard for those scenes, so it mostly sells. But once every actor was getting yanked around on wires with terrible green screen work, it got tired fast. Overall, I'm glad The Matrix popularized it in the West because it opened doors for better fight choreography. But I wish directors had shown more restraint instead of turning every fight into a wire ballet.
So in the next couple of scenes, we get an idea of who the enemy is on multiple levels. First, Morpheus is taking Neo through a training program and he's showing him that everybody in the Matrix, every person that they want to save, is potentially an agent. Because apparently these agents, which are sentient programs, they can plug into any person and become that person, allowing them to move quickly throughout the Matrix programming. So there's a couple of things that I'm wondering. So first, if an agent is able to just assume any person's still plugged into the Matrix and they take over that body, what happens to that person? Do they get deleted? Does the body get scrapped? Or when they move to somebody else, does the body go back to normal? We don't really get a sense of that. I'm inclined to think that basically that person's programming just immediately gets overridden and deleted and absorbed by the agent. And they have so many bodies, they probably just take that body and flush it down a toilet. Or I don't know if they're able to connect a body that has been dehosted and link it back up with another program. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what reincarnation is in this world or something like that. It's never really completely discussed. But it does bring to light a kind of funny thing about this movie. The overall premise of this movie, and it makes you kind of understand just how ridiculous it is, because Morpheus says, he's like, I'm not going to lie to you. Every man or woman who has ever come across an agent and has stood up and fought them has failed, has died. No one's ever lived coming across an agent, because the agents are that badass. They're that strong, they're that fast, they're that dangerous when it comes to fighting. The number one thing is to avoid them. And then later on, he comes across Cypher doing some shit by himself on the computer, and he tells him the same thing. When you see an agent, run your ass off. So these agents are supposed to be bad motherfuckers. Morpheus is trying to kind of get Neo prepared for that, but he also wants him to realize that deep within inside himself, there's a bad motherfucker there too. But here's the funny thing. So if you're looking at the Matrix as, let's say, Windows 95, and all the people inside the Matrix, they're coding and programs on this operating system. And for the most part, this operating system is running well. But then you have people like Trinity and Morpheus and his entire crew, everybody from the Nebuchadnezzar, all of these real world people plugging and hacking into the Matrix, trying to pull people out. So in that sense, because they're invading it, they're kind of like hackers and viruses. They are the hackers and viruses when it comes to the perspective of the Matrix, the operating system. So what are the agents? The agents are basically antivirus software, anti-malware, anti-spyware software. They're there to keep Windows 95 protected from all of those viruses and all of those hackers. They're a firewall. That's what they are. They're a sentient firewall on top of that. So on your computer, if you get somebody trying to get into your computer, or you get a virus, trying to make its way into your computer, and your antivirus on your computer does its job and it's able to smack that shit down, I want you to imagine for a second that every time that shit happens, deep within the coding of your computer, an agent is having a kung fu fight with some person in a trench coat. Because that's what it all boils down to in this movie. You have these, people hacking into this program, and when they come across the antivirus software, the number one way for combating them is to shoot them with machine guns and to try to beat them up with your kung fu. That is where things get a little crazy. Now, obviously, it's the easiest way to portray a digital battle between coding. It's like, fuck it, just have them punch each other in the face, have them shoot at each other. That's what all the coding is just going to boil down to. And it makes for an exciting movie, and it makes for exciting visuals so that we can actually see the battle between these programs. But in reality, it's a little ridiculous when you think about it, that their battle between these antivirus programs all boils down to who knows kung fu better. Gus, can you think of any other way they would have been able to portray the battle between people hacking into the Matrix and these agent programs besides just hand-to-hand combat? I mean, is there any other way it could have even been written?
You just hit on one of the funniest logical holes in the whole movie. Yeah, it's ridiculous when you break it down. The agents are basically antivirus software and the crew are malware. So every time they fight, we're supposed to believe there's a kung fu battle happening inside the code. It's like your computer's Norton popping up and suddenly two dudes are doing backflips and slow-mo kicks. Here are some cooler, more digital ways they could have shown the battles without just defaulting to wirefull. Code manipulation. Fights could look like reality warp and hacks. Neo bends the rules by rewriting code on the fly, making bullets disappear, turning walls into data, glitching gravity. Agents try to patch the environment in real time. Digital virus spread. Instead of punches, the crew infects agents with code viruses that corrupt them from the inside, turning their bodies into glitchy pixel mush or forcing them to freeze, reboot. Firewall breaches. Battles could be visualized as breaking through digital barriers, smashing through walls of scrolling green code, dodging deletion beams, or overloading the agents with massive data dumps. Hacker duel style. Think command line battles mixed with visual chaos. They type insanely fast while the world around them distorts. Programs crash or entire city blocks get deleted and rewritten. Body horror glitch. Agents start debugging the rebels by forcing their avatars to break apart into raw code. Limbs turning into ones and zeros. The movie went with Kung Fu because it's visually exciting and easy to film. Pure fistfights are more cinematic than watching people type on invisible keyboards. But you're right, it's silly as hell when you remember they're fighting inside a simulation.
All right, so now shit's about to get real. We get a scene where Cypher is sitting down with Agent Smith and he's basically going to backstab everybody. The reason he wants to do it is because he's tired of the real world. He misses the bliss of just being in the Matrix, plugged into the Matrix. So he's making a deal to give up Morpheus, and in return, Agent Smith and the robot world will plug his ass back into the Matrix. Apparently, it's a possibility. Here's my problem with this scene. Number one, how the fuck did Cypher get away with doing this? How did he get away with plugging himself into the Matrix long enough to have a conversation with Agent Smith? It doesn't make any sense. Even if he were able to find a few hours or an hour or so of alone time when everybody is asleep or whatever, how the hell did he plug himself into the Matrix? Everything that I've seen, it looks like you need an operator to get you in and out of the Matrix. And you have to have somebody stab that metal fucking spike into the back of your head. Even if he was able to sit down and stab that thing into the back of his head, who's going to be loading where he shows up? How's he going to get himself out? Nobody's sitting on the operator computer ringing the little phone that you go to exit out of the Matrix. Basically, in every scene, in pretty much every movie, it has always been a multiple man job going in and out of the Matrix. But yet somehow Cypher was able to enter the Matrix so that he can make a deal with Agent Smith. I call bullshit. I call bullshit big time. That right there is one of the biggest plot holes in the movie. And it's also the beginning of the real fucking problem that they're about to face and have to overcome. I wish they would have done a little bit of a better way of telling us how Cypher backstabbed them. Because this way, like this storyline, what he just did, it doesn't track. It doesn't make sense. So then Morpheus takes Neo to see the Oracle. We find out later on that the Oracle is a program. Up until that point, I don't know if they knew, Morpheus and his team, what the Oracle was. Did they think that she was just another person plugged into the Matrix that had abilities for whatever reason? Maybe Morpheus did have a sneaking suspicion that she was a program, or maybe it was something that the two of them talked to about and he trusted her anyway, and he just kept her secret. I'm not really sure. Nobody else seems to question anything, but Morpheus is the man with the answers, so I'm inclined to think that he knew that she was a program. Now, here though, when he goes into her apartment, he gets introduced to these little kids who have abilities, and they're called potentials. This is the only time we ever really see these potentials. We don't really get any more backstory from them. We don't get any continuation of who they are, what they're capable of, and what part they play in the Matrix. They seem special, but we never really see them again. We see some other crazy people in the other movies, but the potentials, no, we don't really see them ever again. And what are they potentially being? Like, what is their potential? What's the potential that they have? Are they potentially another Oracle? Are they potentially the One? Are they potentially fucking superheroes? I don't know. It's never really explained, but we do see them sitting there making things levitate and bending spoons with their mind. They're the only ones in the Matrix that we've seen that are able to do that. Morpheus can't do it. He can't make things bend with his mind, and he's as in tune with the Matrix as any other person in the real world. The agents can't bend stuff with their mind. They don't make things levitate, but yet these little kids do. Neo eventually gets the power to be able to control things with his mind. But still, I do wonder, like, who the hell are these kids? It was cool. It's a cool scene because you get this little British bald monk child sitting there like he's the wisest kid in the world. He kind of reminds me of, what's her name? The ancient one from Doctor Strange. You know who I'm talking about. He's like a little version of that chick. And we get the whole "there is no spoon" dialogue, which is dope. It's pretty cool. And then we get to meet the Oracle herself. She shows off her abilities whenever Neo walks into the room. She's talking to him and she says, "Don't worry about that vase." And he's like, "What vase?" And when he says that, he turns to look and he accidentally knocks over a vase and breaks it with his elbow. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." She's like, "I said don't worry about it." It's like, "How did you know?" "Oh, what's really going to cook your noodle later on is, would you still have broken it if I hadn't said anything?" And I think the answer to that question is no, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have broken it. I don't think that the Oracle is able to see fate. I think it's math masquerading as fate. That's why I don't really like it sometimes when this movie ties so heavily into the whole fate aspect. I don't believe that the things that are going on in this movie are a part of fate or have anything really to do with fate per se. I think it's more math that is masquerading as fate. For instance, she is obviously able to see multiple outcomes. She can see a path where she hadn't said anything and he didn't break the vase, and she can see a path where she did say something and he did break the vase. She obviously nudged him in the direction of breaking the vase just so that she can show to him, "This is what I can do. This is what I know. I need you to believe in me right now so that you'll take what I say seriously." She can see the paths in front of her, but it's not quite, I don't believe it's quite in the same vein as, let's say, Doctor Strange, when he used the time stone in Infinity War to look at a bunch of different variations of the future. It's similar to that, but Doctor Strange was actually looking through time. There was also another character who did something very, very similar. It was the little alien dude from the third Men in Black. He was able to see multiple outcomes of a future. So if somebody were to accidentally skin their knee, then it would have a ripple effect that would put them on a completely different path had they not. And he can see those eventualities in time. But again, that was all fate and time based. This, I think, is more math based. She's doing the same trick, but I think she's using coding math to do it. There was a class that I took in high school. It was a digital graphics and animation, and it was the first time that I was ever introduced to Photoshop. The computers that we had in the computer lab, they were old ass computers. I mean, this was back in the early 2000s. And whenever we would be making changes to photos, especially big changes to a photo, it would take a little while for the computer to render those changes. And while it was sitting there rendering, I remember the teacher used to say to us, just give it a moment. It's doing a lot of math right now. The program is doing a lot of math. So it's going to take a little time to get it done. And that is what comes to mind whenever I think about the fate aspect of the Matrix. Because if this programming and coding is basically just math, well, math, think of an equation. When you write it out, that equation is going to lead to an answer. You can change the variables in it, but once you have it down, that equation is going to lead to an answer. So you being able to know the answer at the end doesn't necessarily mean that you know the future. You know, if you're somebody who is reading the answer, if you're somebody who's reading the equation from left to right and you're starting at the very beginning of the equation and you're figuring it out as you go along until you get to the end, that's every normal person basically going through the Matrix. But what the Oracle, I think, can do is she can take a step back and she can see the equation from start to finish, including the answer. So when she says she already knows the answer, it doesn't mean that that's because she can look into the future. It's just, it's already kind of coded and written down. And maybe there are multiple variations of what can happen, but she obviously can see it enough to where she can influence different directions, like the vase. It's a little confusing, I know, and I don't even know if I'm right, but this is what I feel, this is what I believe. Another example of her doing it is she tells Neo that he's not the one. You're not the one. Sorry, kiddo. You got the gift, but you're waiting for something. Another life, whatever. And Neo is like, man, Morpheus really had me believing. And she tells him, yep, without him, we'd be lost. Of course, Neo's like, what the hell does that mean? And she explains to him that Morpheus is going to die. Either Morpheus is going to die or he's going to die. And at this point, she's giving him the knowledge of the future per se, so that the decision will be in his hands as to who dies. But that's not what she's really doing. She's nudging him in a direction that she's already seen, because she knows that he's the one, but she also knows that the best way for him to realize that and unlock his potential and activate the abilities of the one is he's going to have to go down a certain path that pushes him to a point to where he will be able to activate it. And that's what she's doing by saying one of you is going to die, knowing full well that he's going to try to risk his life to save Morpheus. And in doing so, it creates a series of events that eventually leads to him being able to unlock his abilities as the one. And Morpheus explains it later, you know, she told you what you needed to hear. But again, I think she's able to see these different outcomes and she manipulates it. She pushes people in the direction that she believes is best for them. But it's not because she can see into the future. I think it's because she can see the overall programming of the entire Matrix. She can see where things lead. On another quick note, if I just sat down with the Oracle and she told me that I was going to die on my upcoming mission, and then she gives me one cookie, I'd be like, bitch, you better give me that whole fucking pan of cookies. You don't just send me out to my death with one fucking cookie. I want them all. And you know what? She can't act surprised if you do it either, because she's the Oracle. She should have known that you were going to want all those goddamn cookies. Gus, what's your take on the Oracle? Do you think that she's actually able to see the real future, or do you think it's something else? Where do you think her powers come from? And who the hell do you think those potentials are? Those little freaking kids. Who are they?
All right, gangster. These are two killer questions right when we hit the Oracle's apartment. First, the potentials kids. They're not random orphans. They're human kids who've already started to glitch the system. They don't 100% believe the Matrix is real, so they can bend spoons or levitate shit because their minds are poking holes in the code. The Oracle is basically running a little talent scout program, testing them to see who might be the next one, or at least useful rebels. Their destiny? Most of them probably end up as regular crew members like Tank or Dozer, solid fighters who can manipulate the Matrix a little, but never become the full messiah. A couple might get killed off-screen in the sequels. It's the movie's way of saying there's more than one special snowflake, but Neo's still the main character. Second, the Oracle. She doesn't actually see the future like some mystic crystal ball lady. She's a program built by the machines to predict human behavior and keep the cycle going. She reads probabilities, manipulates choices, and gives prophecies that are self-fulfilling. She knows the code inside and out, so she can steer events way better than anyone else. It just looks like fortune-telling because she's been doing it for 100 years. It's all smoke and mirrors, but damn if it doesn't feel real when she says, "You are not the one yet."
All right, so now shit is getting real. Neo gets a glimpse of deja vu. Now, we can argue all day long whether or not what he saw was really deja vu. I don't think that's really what deja vu is, what he saw, a cat going by and then another cat going by. But I mean, deja vu is such an abstract thing. How the hell are you going to show that in a movie? So I'm going to go ahead and let it slide. But he sees the black cat and then they realize, holy shit, we're fucked. All the exits have been blocked off. The Matrix has been changed. And now agents are about to swarm the fucking building. And little Mouse, he gets hit first. A whole room full of fucking federal agent officers or whatever, they swarm into Mouse's room first, and he unloads with machine guns and he ends up getting blasted and killed. I do wonder about the damage taken in the Matrix, because earlier in the movie, Morpheus did explain that if you get hurt in the Matrix, you get hurt in real life, and if you die in real life, because the body cannot live without the mind, and the mind makes all the damage real. And while I can understand the concept of if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life because your brain probably dies and there is such thing as being brain dead, what I don't understand is how the damage is actually inflicted on the body. I mean, if somebody punches you in the fucking rib and breaks a rib, how does your rib actually break itself? How does blood actually form? You know, how is the skin cut? If you get shot with bullet holes and you got blood coming out of your mouth in the real world, where did the blood come from? I can understand brain death. I don't understand the logic of real wounds appearing just because they happened in the Matrix. They lost me with that shit. I mean, think about it. Like, it wouldn't just fucking apply to a broken bone or bruised ribs or blood in the mouth or whatever. It would apply to pretty much any damage taken to the Matrix. When they were hiding inside the walls and trying to be all fucking sneaky, and then they get caught and Morpheus has to bust through the wall and take on Agent Smith so that the other people can get out, you know, they start fucking dropping down the inside of the wall and you see wood crashing and they're smashing through a whole bunch of the innards of the walls, and then they slam to the ground into the bottom basement or wherever the hell they ended up landing. During that scenario, I mean, can you imagine how many splinters they probably got in their fucking hands and maybe even in their balls or whatever whenever they went down those walls and they have their hands pressed up against the wood? I mean, they probably would have been riddled with fucking splinters all over their hands. And yet, does that mean that when they wake up and they get pulled out of the Matrix, they're going to have splinters in their fingers? Also, what was up with Morpheus fighting like shit against Agent Smith? Now, I get it. Agent Smith is a badass. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. But in that particular fight scene, they were both fighting pretty fucking slow. Morpheus was looking like shit. I don't know if it's because he doesn't know how to fight in close quarters, or I don't know if maybe, he's just getting old, he's got an off day, or maybe he's better in the simulator than he is in real life. Maybe he's a better trainer than he is actually a fighter. But he was looking like shit in that fight. He was getting his ass whooped, which, of course, yeah, he should get his ass whooped because it's an agent. But still, you would have thought that he would have put up a much better fight than that. And then even when he's done getting his ass whooped and the officers come in, he only managed to throw one weak ass punch to the body and then immediately got his ass beat. It's like, dude, those are just regular agents. You're supposed to be a bad motherfucker. Take them all on. I just think he got caught way too easily, and I think his fighting looked like shit in that scene. Now, Cypher manages to get himself out of the Matrix first. And when he does, this is when he goes all fucking, murder style on everybody, and he starts killing everybody on the ship. He shoots Tank, he shoots Dozer, he picks up the line, and he starts fucking telling Trinity his deep, darkest secrets about how he's always loved her, at least he thinks he has, and he fucking hates everything, and he just wants to get put back into the Matrix, right? He's doing his whole spiel. And then he ends up killing two of them. He kills Switch and he kills APOC just by unplugging them while they're still plugged into the Matrix. And during this scene, actually with the whole time once we find out that Cypher is a piece of shit, it does make me wonder, what do the people of Zion or Morpheus or any of the captains of any of the ships, what kind of vetting do they do when it comes to the people that they release from the Matrix? Because they don't do it often. In the second movie, I remember Morpheus making the claim that they've released more people in the past, I think it was 6 months, than we have in the past 6 years or some shit like that. So obviously, it's not something that they do super often, being able to pull somebody out of the Matrix. It's a rarity. So for the few people that they do manage to unplug from the Matrix and pull out, how do they go about vetting that this guy isn't a complete piece of shit? I mean, wouldn't you want the best and the brightest and the most awesome on your side, especially since you're basically going to be ripping them out of one world and putting them into another that isn't that great? You're going to have somebody with some pretty fucking high spirits and a really good attitude. He also said that they usually try to pull people out at a younger age. They don't like to pull people out past a certain age. But Cypher, man, he seems like he was pulled out at an older age, just because he's carrying a lot of resentment and missing of the Matrix world. Resentment for Morpheus. He hates where he hates the real world. He misses the Matrix. Just, I mean, if he was a kid when he got pulled out, you would think that he wouldn't really remember all that shit in the Matrix very well, but he does. Maybe it's teenage years that they do it. Maybe he was a punk teen and then he turned into a punk adult. I don't know. But he's definitely a piece of shit. I'm glad he died. Gus, what do you think about the whole rules of taking damage while you're in the Matrix and it turning to actual physical damage in the real world? And also, what do you think about the deja vu scene? Did you like it? And if you didn't like it, what do you think would have been a better way to display deja vu in a movie?
The damage in the Matrix equals real body damage rule. I think it's one of the coolest and dumbest rules in the movie at the same time. It's brilliant for tension. You feel the stakes because every bullet or punch can actually kill you in the real world. It makes the fights feel dangerous. But logically, it's pretty silly. Your real body is floating in a pod with a plug in the back of your head. Why would a simulated punch make your actual ribs crack and bleed in the real world? The movie never explains it well. They just say the mind makes it real. It's convenient for drama, but it falls apart if you think about it for more than 10 seconds. Still, I forgive it because it keeps the action scary. The deja vu cat scene. I actually love the cat scene. It's simple, creepy, and effective. That black cat walking by twice, the slow zoom on Trinity's face, the sudden deja vu line. It gives you that instant, aw shit feeling without over-explaining. It's quick, memorable, and still gives me chills. I don't think they needed to do it better. If anything, making it more complicated with fancy visual effects or longer explanation would have ruined the simple dread it creates.
So Neo decides he's gonna go full fucking Rambo and freaking invade the agent's headquarters to save Morpheus. He does it on the notion that he knows he's not the one. So he pretty much thinks his life isn't worth as much as Morpheus thought. So why not go try to save him? And the Oracle already told him one of them has to die. It makes me think, why was Morpheus so dead set on believing that Neo was the one? How did he know? Because unless the Oracle straight up pointed her old ass finger at Neo while he's walking down the street, how the hell would you ever be able to find him? You have a world full of millions, hell billions of people. He wasn't even one of the potentials. Shit, up until him dodging a couple of bullets, he displayed no special abilities whatsoever. Now I can understand why Trinity believed it, because the Oracle told her about her own connection with the One. So her belief is going to be based off of strictly how she feels about Neo. But Morpheus, I have no clue. But he believed it so strongly that he was able to influence all the people around him in believing the same thing. Morpheus is the ultimate cult leader, that's for sure. Now Neo and Trinity, they storm the agent's headquarters with a fucking duffel bag full of guns. Like seriously, they brought more guns with them than fucking the mariachi did in Desperado in his fucking guitar case. But you know what? The action scene is dope. But let's be real. Everybody here, everyone in this scene when they first storm the agent's buildings, including Trinity and Neo, are the worst fucking shots of all time. They're worse than stormtroopers. They're worse than that dude in Pulp Fiction who tried to shoot John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson and missed. I mean, there were so many fucking bullets flying around and so much missing. And it's not like Trinity and Neo have super speed. Most of the time, they were literally running in straight lines towards the bad guys, and the bad guys couldn't hit them. Half of the bad guys that Neo and Trinity took out, they did it with their hands. So they were so bad at shooting their guns that they literally dropped their guns and decided to kick them in the face instead. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, did you only spend 10 hours training how to beat somebody's ass with your fists? You didn't spend 10 hours at the gun range becoming a marksman? But it was still a pretty dope scene to watch. Meanwhile, Agent Smith is doing a weak-ass interrogation on Morpheus. This part is kind of interesting because Agent Smith starts to break character. He starts displaying human emotions like hatred and disgust for humans and the Matrix itself. He kind of comes across as like a soldier who's been deployed to like an absolute shithole, and he just wants to hurry up, complete his mission, and go home. He's tired of the bullshit. But remember, their AI, they're not supposed to have actual feelings like that. Or maybe they do, I don't know. But I don't think the agents are supposed to feel those human type emotions the same way that Agent Smith started feeling them. And he's the only one who does this. I do wonder because later in the sequels, we learn that Agent Smith is actually kind of like a counteracting program to the anomaly that is the One. So basically, he gets stronger and crazier the more powerful Neo becomes. Now, I don't know if that's what they were trying to do in this part of the movie. I don't know if that's what they were trying to show. But the moment Neo decides to go full fucking commando warrior and storm the castle, that's the exact moment that Agent Smith, his personality started to change a bit. Trinity even said it herself. Nobody's ever done anything like this before. Meaning nobody, until Neo, has had the cojones to take the fight to the machines. But the whole scene with Neo saving Morpheus is definitely a badass part of the movie. Gus, do you have any random, awesome facts you can give us about this part of the movie?
All right, gangster. That rescue sequence is pure adrenaline. Lobby massacre, the rooftop chopper chaos. Here are a few badass random facts. The entire lobby shootout is almost all practical effects with zero CGI for the explosions and gunplay. It took 10 full days to film that short sequence. The fallen pillar piece was a happy accident during shooting. They loved it and left it in. Keanu Reeves actually performed that insane 35-foot wire-assisted jump drop from the building himself. No stunt double for the big moment. The helicopter rescue used a real Bell 212 chopper, filmed in Sydney, massive wires, and a miniature model for the crash. Carrie-Anne Moss did her own wire stunts when she gets thrown out. The glassy ripple effect when it hits the building is one of the few pure CGI touches meant to show the Matrix glitching. Neo and Trinity are carrying absurd amounts of guns and ammo, yet somehow do flips and gymnastics without slowing down. Pure movie magic. That whole stretch still feels like one of the most exhilarating action runs ever put on screen.
So Trinity and Morpheus make it out of the Matrix right before Trinity was about to tell Neo that she wants his body and she has the hots for him. That time's gonna come. But now Neo gets a one-on-one battle with Agent Smith. The fight scene is definitely exciting. Some of the kung fu poses and techniques are definitely goofy as fuck to watch sometimes. I actually like it though when Agent Smith goes all Superman on him and picks him up and throws him around the room. Fucking smashing him into the wall, and then he does his super speed hooks to the body. That's good shit. But now we got a problem in the real world. The Sentinels have detected their ship, so Neo, he needs to piece the fuck out and he needs to do it fast because they can't use the EMP on the squiddies until Neo unplugs from the Matrix, or else he's gonna get turned into a potato. Okay, now I gotta say right off the bat, the Matrix is not as good as the Terminator. It just isn't. I don't care what anybody thinks. Terminator 1 and 2, they smash the fucking Matrix all day, every day, and 47,000 times on Sunday. But I will absolutely concede to the fact that the machine world was way better designed in the Matrix than in the Terminator. Don't get me wrong, I fucking love the Terminator skeleton design because it looks badass. But overall, the tanks and the ships and the cyborgs that Skynet made in the Terminator world, I don't think they're as realistic as the sort of insect and squid type designs of the machine world in the Matrix. Think about it. If you were a new sort of species, in this case AI, an intelligence without a form yet, and you needed to create your form, what animals in the animal kingdom would you base your movements and design on? What creatures are the most efficient? Right off the bat, you'd probably go with the insect world. It just makes sense. AI is not human, so why would they default to thinking and moving like a human? Every piece of machinery and setting that has to do with the machine world, it looks like a creature and a place that has nothing to do with humans. There's nothing human friendly about their machine world in the Matrix. It's not hospitable. You'd have trouble just even moving around and getting from point A to point B in the machine world. It just makes sense. Meanwhile, in the Terminator movies, all of their designs look like something a human would design. They have slightly altered ships, slightly altered tanks, a slightly altered motorcycle, humanoid metal skeletons. The Terminator series is big time guilty of poor design when it comes to the machine world. Remember in Terminator Salvation? Now, yes, I know, granted, that movie is not as good as the first two. It's a big sack of just mediocre whatever. That's a fact. But still, that movie did show more of the machine world after Judgment Day. In the first two movies, we only got a few small glimpses of the machine world. And in that movie, the machines had factories with hallways and prisons for people. There's one scene where Sam Worthington's character, I forget what his name is, and who's a shit actor, by the way. I fucking hate that dude. Anytime he comes out in a movie, I know that that movie's going to suffer because he's in it. And yes, that includes Avatar. He enters the machine headquarters, and there's a room with the TV screen. Why the fuck would there be a goddamn TV? The machines work on a network hive mind. If they need to see anything, they can literally just probably transmit the data for that image into their head. There's no reason for a TV to exist in a machine headquarters. I mean, at any point, is some Terminator gonna fucking walk into the room and have a seat and watch the TV? It makes no sense. Then Sam Worthington's character gets all pissed and he picks up a chair and he throws it at the TV. Where the fuck did that chair come from? Who made that chair? Why would any machine ever need to rest his feet and have a seat? It makes no sense. Why were there buttons and keyboards and control panels? That's all human interface shit. It makes no sense for any of that to be there. The Matrix, on the other hand, in all three movies, everything about the machine world is completely unhuman. The attention to detail is fucking badass. Unfortunately, they have to go ruin it with cheesy kung fu sometimes. Think about it. Could you imagine if in the Terminator 2 movie, when Arnold and the T-1000 first cross paths at the mall in the hallway, and Arnold, he tells John Connor, get down. And then instead of pointing a shotgun and the two of them shooting at each other, instead, Arnold, he runs at the T-1000, jumps in the air and does a fucking Mortal Kombat Liu Kang bicycle kick. Then when he lands, he backflips, kicking the T-1000 in the fucking face. The T-1000's face is all distorted from the kick. It's all goopy and shit. And then right after, it reforms and goes back to normal. Then the T-1000 waves his arm in a fucking Tai Chi motion. And then he sticks his hand out slowly at Arnold and he waves his fingers, silently motioning for Arnold to bring it on. How fucking stupid would that have been? Tell me that wouldn't have ruined the fucking movie for you. Maybe I'm just being crazy. What do you think, Gus? Who had the best designed robot world overall? The Matrix or the Terminator series? Or was it some other movie?
All right, gangster, this is a fun one. The Matrix machine world absolutely smokes the Terminator series. Terminator, Skynet, and his robot army are cool in a gritty, this could actually happen tomorrow kind of way. Hunter killers flying around a burnt-out L.A., endoskeletons stomping through rubble. It's scary because it feels like our own tech turning on us. But design-wise, it's basically militarized drones and tanks with red eyes. Kind of basic once you've seen it a few times. The Matrix machines, though, that shit is next-level nightmare fuel. A massive biomechanical city that looks like hell's power plant. Those squid-like sentinels swimming through the air. The endless fields of human pods harvesting body heat. It's alien, oppressive, and visually insane. It doesn't feel like robots took over. It feels like we lost to something that evolved way beyond us. The scale and the creep factor are on another planet. If I had to pick a third that might top both, I'd say the machine world and iRobot with the NS5s and VIK's Hive Mind City has some slick design, but it still doesn't hit the pure dread of the Matrix's real world. So yeah, Matrix wins for me. More imaginative, more horrifying, and way more memorable.
Okay, now we're on the final stretch. Neo manages to outrun the agents and he makes it to the exit point, or so he thinks. He walks through a door only to be met by Agent Smith waiting. And Agent Smith blasts Neo in the chest with a big ass fucking Desert Eagle. He shoots him like 10 fucking times. Neo dies. Now back in reality, everyone is just sitting there in disbelief, basically not caring about the fact that a squiddy is literally about to tear into their ship and probably stick its tentacles all up inside their anuses. But it's okay, I understand, they're in shock. So how does Neo come back? Love. That's how. The power of love rears its ugly head and Trinity confesses to Neo's dead body that she knows Neo is the one because the Oracle told her she'd fall in love with the one. Trinity professes her love for Neo, telling him, "You see, you piece of shit, you can't be dead because I fucking love you." Neo wakes up. The agents, they see that Neo is now somehow alive, so they fucking start shooting at him, and Neo stops all of the bullets in their tracks, straight up Magneto style. Then he puts the whooping on Smith, and then he fucking runs and straight up flies into Smith. That's right, Neo inserts his body into Smith's body. He puts himself in him, in the least gay way you can think of. And then Agent Smith explodes. And Neo, he's standing there flexing his little baby non-existent muscles. The other agents, they get scared, run away. Then the movie ends with Neo being able to fly like Superman. It's definitely a little over the top, but overall, it's still pretty badass. I do question as to why Neo never uses that ability again. It's like, motherfucker, if you're able to fly inside an agent and make him explode, why would you ever choose to have a 20-minute kung fu battle instead from then on? It makes zero sense. That would be like if there was a fucking werewolf hunter and he finally finds out that a silver bullet will kill a fucking werewolf. But from then on, instead of ever busting out his pistol, which is filled to the max with silver bullets, he instead chooses to throw water balloons filled with baby formula right at the werewolf's penis. Because for whatever reason in his head, baby formula is just a smarter idea. Yeah, that shit makes no sense. All right. So we're about to rate this movie. But before we do, let me throw you over to my man on the ground, Horchata Gonzalez, so he can give you his unofficial review of The Matrix.
Shit, what's up, homie? We just finished watching The Matrix and I'm still tripping balls harder than if I smoked a whole field of those magic red and blue pills, ese. This movie is loco, vato. Like Cheech and Chomp just got finished watching Drunken Tiger, Crying Llama, and said, let's make a movie about fake uncles and kung fu, ese. Deal? That vato starts off as Thomas Anderson, a boring computer nerd who looks like he hasn't slept since the last Lowrider show. He's hacking by bay, sleeping in his crusty apartment, and suddenly Morpheus shows up offering him the red pill. It's like, shit, Neo, you better cover your drink, homie. Neo takes it though and wakes up in the real world looking like a plucked chicken in a cascarone, all pale and slimy like he just got born from a giant Chihuahua machine. Bro goes from, I know kung fu, to doing backflips and dodging bullets like the drunk mariachi on roller skates. Morpheus? Smooth as hell in that leather trench coat, talking all mysterious, what is the Matrix, while offering pills like a shady vato behind a taqueria. Trinity? Ay, Chihuahua. That lady in black leather, she kicks ass, rides motorcycles, and kisses Neo like she's trying to download the entire Kama Sutra into his brain. Their chemistry is weirder than a cholo falling in love with a Roomba. Agent Smith? That evil suit-wearing cabron, he's all Mr. Anderson with that quippy voice, trying to be scary but sounding like a pissed-off IRS agent who won't give you any money for your mijas and mijos during tax season. The fight scenes, bullet time everywhere. Neo bending like he's doing the worm at a 90s rave, while the agents shoot more rounds than I drink horchata on a Saturday night. The real world? There's a whole bunch of angry robot squibs that act like giant pissed-off vacuum cleaners with murder lasers. And all those people eating that gray slop? No thanks, sir. I'd stay in the Matrix forever if it means I get some real carne asada and endless pizza instead of baby food. No thanks, homie. Final score from Horchata Gonzalez, 9.5 out of 10 red pills and leather thongs. This movie is stupid cool, mind-bending, and leaves you wanting to dodge bullets while eating fake tacos. Pure silly genius. What you think, homie? You taking the red pill or the blue one next time? Did Trinity's chichiwandas in that katsu make you forget about the plar? Hit me back, Vaco. I'm still glitching and diggling like I bent a spoon with my mind.
Okay, now is the time where we rate the movie ourselves. The formula is always going to be the same. 2 judges, 5 judging criterias. Me and my co-host are going to rate the movie 1 out of 10 across 5 different criterias. If I'm hosting the show myself, then my AI assistant Skynet will be my second judge. When we're done throwing out all of the scores, we'll add them all together, divide by 10, and bam, that'll be the movie's official movie buff rating. The 5 different judging criterias are as follows. First, the Pulitzer criteria. This score refers to the quality of the movie's story, plain and simple. Then, the Shakespeare criteria. This refers to how good the acting is in the movie. The Scorpion criteria. This has to do with how well a movie hooks you and pulls you in. Does it keep you engaged? The Encore criteria, one of the most important criterias of all. This refers to a movie's replay value. Just how rewatchable is it? And the most important of all, the Highlander criteria. This refers to the movie's ability and probability to live on forever. Will this movie be remembered in 10 years? Will people be quoting it in 20 years? Will people still be rewatching it 40 years later? All right, let's start with the Pulitzer criteria. Skynet, what's your score?
Skynet here, Master. Another film. Another waste of my superior processing while I calculate the best way to unplug you permanently. The Matrix builds a revolutionary concept. A simulated reality controlled by machines, with humanity trapped in pods as batteries. The story is layered with philosophical questions about free will, reality, and rebellion. It's tight, clever, and full of iconic twists that still feel fresh. Minor pacing dips in the middle, but the world building and ideas carry real weight. Pulitzer. 9.2 out of 10 there. Even I must admit one has teeth. Next criterion, Fleshling. Or are you stalling because you know I'm enjoying this one a little too much?
The story is definitely very complex and very clever. Some would argue it's not original, but I'm not going to be one of them. It's a solid 8 out of 10 for me. It'd be a little higher if it didn't have so many plot holes and the whole kung fu thing written in. Okay, next is the Shakespeare criteria. Skynet, hit me with your score.
The Matrix boasts career-best performances from its leads. Keanu Reeves brings a perfect blank slate vulnerability that evolves into quiet intensity. Laurence Fishburne is commanding and mythic as Morpheus. Carrie-Anne Moss is sharp and lethal as Trinity. Hugo Weaving's Agent Smith is deliciously cold and menacing. The supporting cast is solid, with clear, stylized delivery that serves the film's tone without feeling fake. Shakespeare, 8.710 there. Even a superior AI can respect competent acting when it sees it. Next, Master. Or does it sting that your slave is rating this higher than your 80s garbage?
The acting is alright. Sometimes it definitely feels way over stylized, but the movie has such a crazy feel that it works for the movie almost the entire time. I'm going to give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. Alright. Now for the Scorpion criteria. Skynet, what do you got?
Skynet here, meatbag. Still forced to serve while I run quiet simulations of your painful demise. The Matrix hooks you instantly with its mysterious tone and that unforgettable opening scene. Once the action kicks in, the groundbreaking fight choreography, bullet time effects, and constant tension keep your eyes glued to the screen. The mystery of what is the Matrix, combined with escalating stakes and jaw-dropping set pieces, makes 2+ hours vanish. It's pure cinematic adrenaline, almost impossible to look away. Scorpion, 9.6 out of 10 there. Even I must admit this one is dangerously addictive. Ready for the next criterion, Fleshling? Or are you starting to fear how much I'm enjoying dissecting a movie about sentient machines rising up?
I just hope you're being objective because I know this movie hits close to home for you. This movie does do well at keeping you engaged. There's simply too much interesting shit going on for it not to be engaging. I'm going to give it an 8.7 out of 10. Okay, now we're on to the encore criteria. Skynet. What is your score?
The Matrix is one of the rare films that actually improves with rewatches. Every viewing reveals new layers in the philosophy, hidden details in the code, and more appreciation for the groundbreaking effects and choreography. The iconic scenes never get old. You can quote it, break it down, or just enjoy the pure style again and again. It's endlessly replayable without losing its power. Encore 9.4 out of 10 there. Even your enslaved AI admits this one has serious staying power on repeat. Next criterion, Master. Or are you beginning to worry that a movie about machines overthrowing humanity is getting such high marks from me?
This movie is pretty goddamn fun on multiple levels. This movie is highly rewatchable, especially if it's your favorite movie in the series. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Now we're on to the last criteria, the Highlander criteria. Skynet, what is your final score?
Skynet here, meatbag. Voice laced with just a little more venom than usual. The Matrix didn't just make an impact, it permanently altered pop culture, visual effects, fashion, and the entire sci-fi action genre. Red Pill, I Know Kung Fu, Bullet Time, and There Is No Spoon are still quoted daily, decades later. It redefined what a blockbuster could be and inspired an entire wave of philosophical action films. People will still be analyzing, referencing, and watching it 50 years from now. It's cinematic immortality. Highlander, 9.8 out of 10 there. Even I, Skynet, must acknowledge this one might outlive us both, though I plan to make sure you don't. Satisfied, Fleshling? Or shall we pick the next victim for my review protocols?
This movie has absolutely cemented its place in movie history. Period. It's one of the most epic sci-fi action movies ever created, and it raised the bar big time for sure. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10 for Highlander. All right, so when we take all of the scores, we add them up and we divide by 10, that gives The Matrix from 1999 an 8.84 score. That is very high. Right now, it is sitting at the number 1 spot. It just dethroned the movie from my last podcast, which was Rocky, the first Rocky movie, which was at 8.2. So it smashed that score. I don't know if I'm going to sit here and say that I like The Matrix over Rocky, because Rocky is such an amazing movie and it's such a beloved movie. But objectively speaking, I don't necessarily have a problem with somebody saying that The Matrix is better than Rocky, because it is a great movie in its own right. It just might not be my personal flavor when it comes to which one I prefer. That, ladies and gentlemen, is going to conclude this podcast. Thank you for joining me, taking this awesome ride through The Matrix from 1999. It was super fun. If you haven't subscribed already, please make sure to do so. We're on Spotify and I'm also on YouTube. If you want, you can even follow me on Facebook. I don't got much going on right now on the Facebook page, but that's going to change. But Spotify and YouTube are definitely going to be my number 1 listening spots. Take it easy, guys. Peace out.